So my name is Edward Thomson. Today I want to talk a little bit about your Git repository and keeping it healthy. Real quick about myself, I work at GitHub. I'm a product manager. I used to do version control stuff, but I don't anymore. Now I do CI/CD. I'm working on a tool called GitHub Actions, which I think is awesome and you should totally check out. But I do want to talk about version control today. In particular, I want to tell you how you can break your Git repository. Why would you ever want to do that? Well, in fact, you probably don't. I don't. That's where I keep all my stuff. I think that what you want to do is, in fact, not do all these things. But I do see these come up all of the time. So I want to tell you things that you should not do. Somebody on the internet once commented on a YouTube video of this talk that it was totally theoretical and nobody would ever do this. That's a lie. I've seen people do all of these things. Please, please don't do them. Okay? The first big one is about your line endings. How many people think they've got their line ending configuration really sorted out with Git, really for real this time? I don't see a single hand. Oh, one hand! Congratulations. For the rest of us, what is the problem? Well, there's this option in Git called core.autocrlf. And Git, when you install Git, for Windows at least, asks you what you want to do with that setting. And it gives you a default, and everybody absolutely thinks that they've got it right. Do we, in fact, have it right? Let's clone a Git repository and find out. So I'm going to clone a repository on Windows. I have core.autocrlf. I have this repository locally, just in case conference Wi-Fi is poor. So I'm going to clone lineendings.git into a folder called lineendings. We're going to take a look at what is inside. So if I run git config core.autocrlf, it'll tell me what it's set to. It's set to true. This is kind of the default. Git for Windows asks you what you want to do. This is what it tells you to do, but you can choose your own adventure. Your adventure is pain, no matter which one you choose. Let's take a look. I'm going to change that. Core.autocrlf, false. Now I'm going to run git status. Remember, I just cloned this repository. I have not touched it. All I've done is change a configuration setting, and now I've got a file that's modified. How often has this happened to us, where we clone a repository, we don't make any changes, and all of a sudden, things are dirty? Oh, it's terrible, right? So what is the problem here? Well, core.autocrlf is a configuration setting. And configuration settings in Git are local to either your repository or to your machine. They're not shared with everybody else. So I can set core.autocrlf one way, and I'm putting files into the repository as if that were actually set everywhere. If you change your core.autocrlf setting to not be the same as mine, now all of a sudden we're making different promises to Git, we're putting different content into the repository, we're pulling different content out, and it's a total mess. So please don't do it. Instead, put a Git attributes in all of your repositories. It's very important, but that is the way that you can agree with everybody using your repository on the settings that you have. Okay, that is by far the most common thing I see people do that is really unfortunate with Git. However, there's more. The next thing I see a lot of is people changing this option called core.ignoreCase. Almost all of the core settings are not in fact settings. They're cache options that Git has used. When you create a repository, when you clone a repository, Git actually looks at your file system to decide if it's a case-insensitive system or a case-sensitive file system. And it caches this, so it doesn't have to check every time. It's a speed up for Git. It's not to be changed. Why not? Let's take a look. I'm here on a Mac. My Mac has a case-insensitive file system. If I go into core.ignoreCase, I've got a file called hello.txt. Now, if I change it to be hello.txt in all caps and run git status, nothing has changed because fundamentally Git knows that I have a case-insensitive file system, and poorly behaving programs will sometimes create a new version of a file instead of like updating the old one, and it might screw up the case. This happens a lot. So if you were to change core.ignoreCase, see right now it's true because I'm on a case-insensitive file system. If I change this This is a cached setting. Again, this is not something I should really be touching. Now I run git status. Ooh, now that file is changed. And in fact, if I actually make changes to the file, then I'm in an even worse position. There we go. Let's just add some exclamation points. Now I run git status, and something is both modified and untracked. Oh, that doesn't make any sense. I can't even add it. Like, tab completion doesn't seem to work right. Like, nothing is good here. If I add it and commit it, then it's still modified? How does that even work? And so I'm in a real painful place. And so what I want to do, of course, whenever that happens in Git, I'm just going to clone the whole repository over again. Right? And that'll get me all out of this mess, definitely, for sure. Oh, clone doesn't even work anymore. Oh, this is a very bad place that I'm in. So don't do this. Please don't change this core.ignore case setting or any of the other core settings like core.precompose Unicode. Whoa, this one's a messy one. And if you're not familiar with Unicode normalization, allow me to blow your mind for a minute. How do you represent the letter E with a diaresis over it? Well, there's a couple of different ways, depending on how you like your Unicode. You can either compose it so that it's a single character. That character is E with diaresis, or it's two characters, Latin small letter E plus the combining diaresis character. Basically, Unicode says this, and your operating system says, cool, I'll make a glyph that is E with two dots over it. OK, I don't know why we need two different mechanisms to convey the same information, but we've got them. What's the problem with that? Well, you've got to pick one when you create a file name. And in particular, Mac OS will always pick one for you. If you try to create a file with one particular form, Mac OS says, that's cool, I don't actually support that. And so it'll change your file name on you transparently. Good times. What kind of pain does that cause? Well, now I'm in a place right here. I've got one file. It's called hello. It's a very metal version of hello. It's got metal umlauts over it. So if I run git status, everything is fine. If I run git config core.precompose Unicode, oh, well, it's actually not set. That's interesting. Apparently that is in fact not cached. So if I change that to true, no problem. Change it to false and run git status, still no problem. That's fine. Let's edit this file. And see what happens. That's actually, surprisingly, that is actually exactly what it should be saying. In fact, I think I just had a demo failure, and there's no chance for me to recover it in a 10-minute talk. So we're just going to keep going. Don't change it. Here's another fun one, core.protect NTFS and core.protect HFS. Let's go back over to Windows. We're going to go into this directory, core.protect NTFS. We're going to run git status. Oh, I've got another strange problem. Which branch am I on? Another demo failure. I apologize. Let's switch over here. There we go. Pretend there was no demo failure. So I'm in this right here. We're going to run git status. Everything's fine. I'm on the master branch. I'm going to unset core.protect NTFS. And now my NTFS system, my file system itself, is no longer quote unquote protected. What does that mean? Let's take a look. I'm going to check out this nasty, dangerous branch I have here called NTFS. I've just switched branches, and I'm running git status. OK, no problem. Everything's up to date. Everything's clean. I don't actually see any changes. What I have here is a file called hello.txt, and then I have this directory called .git. .git is where my repository lives. This is an important place. This is where all of your content actually lives. Whether it's your objects, your branch information, your configuration about Git, that's what it means to be a distributed version control system. You've got all that information right there in that directory. One of the important things about Git is that it doesn't let you write into that directory. If I were to say run git add.git index, that's a file in the .git directory, Git will tell me that it can't do it. right? The .git directory is a place that only it can write to. You are not allowed to touch it. People are not allowed to check into it because you could overwrite somebody's config and all of a sudden start executing programs. You could overwrite somebody's objects and all of a sudden poison their source code. Totally off limits until you turn off core.protect NTFS like we did. Now when I checked that out, if I run dir, I've got this file here. Hello from inside your repository. Yes, my sneaky branch actually put that there, and it was able to do that because I turned that protect flag off. What is inside my branch? Well, it's got a file called get_1 hello from inside your repository.txt. How many people remember DOS and 8.3? A couple of you. For those of you who don't remember, DOS had 8.3 file names. When Windows added long file support, they had to figure out some weird back compatibility for DOS. And they did it with ~1 at the end of a file name. So a folder called .git maps to get_1. So I can add a directory called get_1. When I check it out on Windows, if I turn off core.protect NTFS, that will map right into .git. So what I'm saying is if I run dir.git, I see my Git repository. If I run dir get_1, I see the same thing. So that's that back compatibility still biting us in 2020. Git has that flag, core.protect NTFS, to protect from that. So you can't use get_1 unless you turn off that flag. So don't touch that flag, pretty please. Finally, we have operating system reserved file names. Different file systems cannot represent all of the same file names. On Linux, you can't have a file name with a / in it. That's really the only limitation. And since Git was built by a guy who built Linux, Git also doesn't really have anything in the way of limitations, but macOS does. Windows especially does. And that will come and get you if you start using these things. So I can clone a repository, reserved names.git, and what happens? Oh, I can't even clone this repository. It tells me I can't even check it out because I've got some weird files in it. But it tried, and let's see what it did. If I run git status, oh, I've got files that are deleted, I've got files that are untracked. Right after a clone, none of this should be happening. What's the problem? Well, I've got a file named aux.txt. And aux is a reserved file name on Windows, kind of like com1 and lpt1. It harkens back to, again, the old days of DOS, which are still biting us in 2020. So you can't have a file name that starts with aux. If you do, Git, the operating system will fail to write it. Git, in this case, just totally gives up. Is this a real-life example? Yes, you cannot clone the Linux kernel onto a Windows machine because there's an aux.c hiding in there somewhere. So please don't do that unless you just really hate cross-platform compatibility, in which case, go crazy, Linus Torvalds. Thanks for everything. Anyway, in case you forgot any of this, please, number one, absolutely always remember, set up a git attributes file to take care of your line endings. Do not rely upon core.autocrlf. It's not going to get you all the way. Other than core.autocrlf, don't touch the core configuration settings. They're not for you. They are caches that need to be consistent. They're there to protect you. And finally, don't check in operating system reserved file names. This was super quick. I thank you all so much. If you did not catch it all, feel free. You can find out more information about the Git version control system, how it works, and how you could hopefully not break it at insidegit.com. Thanks so much.